It's time for your daily LSU baseball update with Musso at the box. Now, Matt Musso.
Off and running. Welcome in another edition of Musso at the box. Fired up to have you with me and fired up for today's show. Please smash the like button, get subscribed if you have not already on the YouTube channel, as well as on your favorite podcast app. Just search Musso at the box. Please share. Follow me on social media as well. Twitter X at Musso Matthew. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram. I'm there as well. On today's show, we have a bunch to get to. We steamrolled towards the Super Regional against West Virginia. So I want to take a step back and look at how West Virginia got to this point. What was their path? How did they end up in Baton Rouge? And what can it tell us about maybe what you should expect from the Mountaineers over the next at least 2 games when they match up with LSU with a trip to Omaha on the line? I also want to talk about Steven Milam and postseason monster, because that is a completely different player. No matter what type of season he's having, he transforms into a different player once the regular season ends. I have numbers to go through with you from overall, including the SEC tournament, as well as just the NCAA tournament, and they are both staggering when you look at Monster Milam's postseason career so far at LSU. And then, of course, Chandler Dorsey enters the transfer portal. That makes 5 LSU Tigers in the portal. A couple thoughts on that as well before we get out of here. So, like I said, we are jam-packed and ready to roll. Let's start with LSU, and let's start with Steven Milam. And man, Steven Milam came into 2025 with all the hype in the world. He made the move over to shortstop, and he has just been sensational with the glove over at shortstop. 3 errors all year long. He is so quick over there with the transfer, just the foot. I mean, everything about him at shortstop is awesome. The bat has been in a little bit of call it a sophomore slump. And I mean a little sophomore slump. Like, Steven Milam hit 326 a year ago as a true freshman. He's at 285 right now on the season for LSU. But when you also look at it and you go, okay, well, he improved on his home run total. He improved on his RBI total. So that's why I don't even want to say he's struggled. He struggled in SEC play. But what everybody wanted to know was, okay, he made, and again, make no mistake, he had a really, really good freshman year. He burst onto the scene in the postseason. So everyone's looking at Steven Milam this season, kind of scuffling through conference play and saying, all right, well, is that going to follow him into the postseason, or is he going to turn it back on? And folks, he's turned it back on. So much so that you look at him and you go, that's just the guy that lives for that time of the year. So Steven Milam, in his career in total for the postseason, so including the SEC tournament, has hit 370, scored 16 runs, hit 4 balls out of the park, has driven in 14, has walked 9 times, and struck out just 7. That's the entirety of the postseason. SEC tournament, NCAA tournament combined. When you look at Steven Milam just in the NCAA tournament, in his career at LSU so far, he's hitting 342, has scored 10 runs, hit 2 balls out of the park, driven in 7, has walked 7 times, and struck out just 4. In 35 at-bats in the NCAA tournament, he has struck out 4 times. And the thing is, it's not just that he's performing. It's when he's performing. And I don't just mean it's the postseason. I mean win in those games. Obviously, a year ago, everyone's going to point to the walk-off homer against Wofford or the walk-off homer against South Carolina in the SEC tournament, and you should. Like, those are the really big moments that stick out. But y'all, Steven Milam has always had a flair for the moment. The first time he got a start for LSU was the second game of the season in 2024. You'll remember, it was that absolutely frigid day, LSU, Central Arkansas. Luke Holman threw like 6 innings or so and was dominant. LSU won the game 2-0. And again, as you might expect in that type of moment, or I should say in that type of game, scoring at a premium, right? It was a scoreless game heading into the bottom of the 4th inning. And in the bottom of the 4th inning, in a scoreless game in his first start, Steven Milam gave LSU the lead. He singled to right field, drove in the first run of the game. He scored Hayden Travinski. And ultimately, that's the game-winning run. His first start, second game of his career. In that moment, he delivered. And that has really just kind of set course his career so far where, again, he's had a flair for the moment. And that carried over to the NCAA tournament, like we said, with the walk-off home run against Wofford. But, I mean, he hit 304 in that Chapel Hill Regional in general, with a couple home runs, as a matter of fact. But even if you just look at this year, like, I'll point to the Sunday game against Little Rock first in illustrating this. The top of the first inning, LSU has a run in, but you have runners at second and third with 2 out. It's a 1-0 ball game. Steven Milam comes up, falls behind in the count 1-2, works it full, gets a clutch 2-out single to drive in the other 2 and make it 3-0. Like, that's a big moment in that ball game up to that point. Hell, later in that game, when LSU is still in it, like, it's 6-4 at this point in the top of the 7th. Milam's up. He singles to lead off that inning, and you were hoping that would get something started. Ultimately, that's when Tanner Reeves would hit into that line-out double play, and you just knew, okay, it is not LSU's night tonight. But that's 2 instances in that game where, one, he tacked on 2 extra runs that were big and then attempted to start a rally there, but it wasn't your night. Against Dallas Baptist, Milam was involved in every rally for LSU that night. He was phenomenal. He reached base all 5 times. He was 2 for 2. Also had walks in there, and I believe was hit by a pitch. Also, he scored 4 times. Like, in every rally he was involved in. The 5th inning, he led that inning off with a single and would ultimately come around to score. That made it 7-0 in that game. But in the 3rd inning, where you really blew it open, he singled through the right side. That put runners at first and third, and ultimately a big inning was ignited there where LSU would put up 3. It's the moment in which he does the damage. It's not just that he's hitting 370 in his career postseason and 342 career in the NCAA tournament. It is the moment. And the only thing I have for you there is go back to where we started this convo. Some guys are just made for the moment. And Monster Milam feels like he's one of those guys that is just made for the moment because he's shown it literally since his first start in an LSU uniform. And that serves incredibly well. You hear about the great ones, right? They want the ball in their hand for the last shot. They want to be up at the plate when there's 2 outs and you're down 2, or you're down 1 and there's 2 and there's a guy on. They want that moment. they want the ball thrown to them in overtime. He's one of those guys. When the lights shine the brightest, he turns it on. And everyone, you will forget about the SEC struggles, provided Steven Milam stays on this hot streak in his postseason career. LSU makes a run to Omaha or even potentially an 8th national championship, and he's a huge part of it because what he did in the postseason. It's what everybody remembers. You remember the winners. You remember the guys who helped lead you to championship moments. And like, perfect example, a guy like Thatcher Hurd. Thatcher Hurd's career in the regular season at LSU is more than forgettable. But you'll never forget Thatcher Hurd because of what he did in the postseason for LSU. Thatcher Hurd came in relief after a rain delay against Oregon State in 2023, struck out 12, started the national championship game against Florida, game 3, gives up the 2-run shot to Wyatt Langford in the first, settles in, goes 6 innings, punches out a bunch of guys, and is the winning pitcher in LSU's 7th national championship game. That's what everyone's going to remember about Thatcher Hurd. Steven Milam is that kind of guy where, you know what? He stays hot. LSU makes a run. He comes back another year, does it again. No one's ever going to remember that he hit 211 as a sophomore in conference play. They're going to remember all the moments he provided and how he helped LSU make deep runs in the postseason because he likes when the lights are on bright, and that's when he thrives. And that's what he's done so far in his career at LSU. And it's huge. Like, it's massive. Because when he's going like that, your lineup takes on just a whole nother identity because you can hit him in so many different places in the lineup, so many different spots in the lineup. And he can have success in all of them. You know, the thing that really stands out to me, though, is the more walks than strikeouts in his postseason career, because that just tells you, like, that's the illustration of him really locking in those moments and taking his best at bats when he is walking more than he's striking out. And again, Steven Milam doesn't strike. He struck out the least amount of anybody on the team this year. He's got 22 strikeouts and over 200 at bats. But to really put that in focus in the NCAA tournament and just in the postseason in general, that's really, really where you can see it. And that's why he's able to come through in those big moments. It's because he's completely locked in. He lives for it. And that's when he takes his best at bats. So buckle up, man. He's been awesome so far in his career. And he's about to play the 2 to 3 biggest postseason games of his life. And if he produces and helps LSU win those, he's got a couple more that'll be the biggest in his life when LSU goes to Omaha. I don't know about y'all. I'm extremely confident. Why wouldn't you be? The numbers bear it out. He's been awesome. All right. West Virginia. Let's move on to West Virginia. How'd they get here? Who are the West Virginia Mountaineers? Well, they are the champions of the Big 12. West Virginia comes in to the Baton Rouge Super Regional at 44-14 overall. That is a program record for wins. Entering the NCAA tournament, they finished with an RPI of 28. They were sent to Clemson, as you know, because you know LSU was paired with the Clemson Regional, and they swept through it 3 games. But that does not tell the entire story whatsoever. I sat here after the field was announced and looked at LSU's draw, and we talked through it. And when I looked at the Clemson Regional, I said everyone's going to look at West Virginia. I think the 2 teams that have the best chance to actually come out of that are Clemson and Kentucky. And I gave my reasoning. West Virginia, they weren't playing great baseball at that time. They didn't host because their resume didn't warrant it because, well, it just wasn't very strong. West Virginia entered the NCAA tournament 5-5 in quad one games. They didn't play a quad one game at home all year. And when you look at their series against BYU on the road, that was an RPI team of 59. I mean, it barely snuck in quad one for you there. You're 5-5 in those games. Every time they really stepped up and played a team, inside the top 40 of the RPI, it didn't go great. The win against Clemson was their second top 30 RPI win all year. Just the second one. So it was easy to kind of look at them and go, their win total is inflated by a pretty bad schedule. Their strength of schedule overall was 99 entering the NCAA tournament. And I looked at that and I go, well, Clemson played in the ACC. They're more battle tested. Kentucky played in the SEC and lost a bunch of one-run games. They're very battle tested. And I liked how that presented itself. Credit West Virginia. They proved me wrong there. So I was curious. Well, how'd they get there? And I kept a keen eye on that regional, and I watched a lot of that regional. And the one thing I will tell you is there was a lot of sloppy baseball played in that regional. A lot of sloppy baseball played in the Clemson regional. And West Virginia took advantage of all of it. And that feeds into their hand. West Virginia is a team that is not powerful. They do not hit home runs. They do not hit doubles. But they take their walks. They get hit by the ball a bunch at the plate. They strategically move runners over. They have a great understanding of the strike zone, so they can score runs without the benefit of a hit. More on that momentarily. And they're very strategic in when they steal bases. They have 108 of them on the year, and you might think, oh, they run all the time. Not necessarily. They stole 4 bases over 3 games in Clemson. That's it. 4. But they were strategic and they work. And they put a lot of pressure on you because of that offensively. But West Virginia also played sloppy baseball in that Clemson regional. They were just able to overcome it better than the other teams. And a lot of the sloppy baseball that Kentucky and Clemson played was caused by pressure that West Virginia put on them. For example, let's just kind of go through it game by game. So West Virginia, they opened it up against Kentucky. They sent their ace to the mound, Griffin Kern. We'll talk plenty about him. He's a lefty over the course of the week. He gave them 7 1/3. He was awesome. He gave up 3 runs. Only one of them was earned because sloppy baseball in that regional. But when you look at it and you go, oh, West Virginia, 4 runs, 7 hits. Pretty good. Pretty good. You dig a little bit deeper. They were shut out for the first 4. You go to the bottom of the 5th when West Virginia puts up 2. You have an infield single. Then a stolen base. Throwing error by Kentucky to allow another runner to reach, which that would have given you 2 outs in the inning. So you have runners at first and third. Then Kentucky hits a batter. And then another throwing error by the Wildcats when you should have been out of the inning twice resulted in 2 runs scoring. In the 6th inning, when they tied that game up, you had a leadoff double. Sack bunt. RBI ground out. And then in the bottom of the 9th, when West Virginia walked them off. You had another leadoff double. A passed ball advances the runner to third with less than 2 outs with nobody out. Sacrifice fly. West Virginia in that game. By the way, Kentucky's runs also unearned because of errors by West Virginia. Scored 4 runs. None of them scored on a base hit. All without the benefit of a hit. Throwing error, sac fly, RBI ground out, all that. Like, that's what they do. This team is not going to really string together a lot of hits. It's hard to do. Now, they had some success doing that at points in the regional. They jumped out to a 3-0 lead against Clemson in the very first inning. And you had a hit by pitch started, by the way. Then a single. But then you had a stolen base in there, one of their 4. And RBI ground out got the scoring started. And then they doubled and singled back-to-back. It's like that's kind of how it goes for this West Virginia team. And that's really how it went throughout the entirety of the Clemson Regional. Kentucky and Clemson combined to commit 5 errors when playing West Virginia, and you credit the Mountaineers. They were opportunistic. They forced a lot of that with the pressure, and they took advantage of it. They had multiple comebacks. They came from behind in every single game they played in this regional. They were down 3-0 to Kentucky, came back and won it. They were down 5-4 against Clemson, came back and won it. They were down 5 runs 2 separate times against Kentucky in the regional final, came back both times, won it. A lot of it, again, errors on the opposition and stringing together some hits finally in that third game when Kentucky was out of pitching. I went back and I watched a bunch of cut-ups from this, and I have some takeaways from what I saw from West Virginia. I think they're a very scrappy ball club that's going to present a challenge for LSU, but I think LSU matches up really well with them. And going back and watching cut-ups and footage of this regional and watching their comebacks and whatnot, there weren't a lot of hard hit balls. It's a lot of infield singles, a lot of bloops. A lot of great at-bats where you draw walks and get hit by the pitch. They hit 1 home run over the course of the entire thing. But there was also some really sloppy play. West Virginia committed 8 errors. 8 errors in the regional in Clemson. I'm sorry, 9 errors. Pardon me. West Virginia committed 9 errors over 3 games in that regional. That's just sloppy. They like their 1-2 punch in Kartsonis and Kern. And again, we'll talk plenty about them. They have a couple key guys in the bullpen. They do not have depth. And that was on full display in that final game. Where they had played 2 games. They were in the catbird seat. They fell behind 5 runs twice to Kentucky. West Virginia walked 10 guys in that final game. They used 8 pitchers, including bringing Griffin Kern back, their ace, who threw 118 pitches on Friday to close out the game and get the save. Reese Bassinger pitched all 3 days. Now, he does lead them in appearances. Like, he's their top bullpen arm. We'll talk plenty about him as the week goes on, too. Pitched all 3 days. So they got there by overcoming some sloppy baseball that they played themselves, but by putting a lot of pressure on the opposition and taking advantage of every opportunity that they were given. And that's where they're here. When you look at the top performers from that regional for West Virginia. You start with Armani Guzman, has not been an everyday player for the Mountaineers, but recently has been, inserted into the lineup. Guzman is a speedy player. He's their leading stolen base guy. He has played in 47 games, but started just 23. Really here down the stretch has been inserted in there, and he was awesome in the Clemson Regional. In fact, was unanimously voted the most outstanding player. He went 8 for 12 and drove in 6 runs, including the walk-off sac fly in game number 1 and the game-tying RBI against Clemson, and he brought in the game-winning run against Kentucky in Sunday. He was incredible. Brody Kresser, infielder for West Virginia. He went 6 for 13, including 4 out of 5 in the upset win over Clemson. He made the all-tournament team as well. Logan Save, their catcher, hit .333 with their only home run, drove in 3 and scored 4. He made the all-tournament team. And then their senior ace, Griffin Kern, 7 1/3 innings on Friday, 118 pitches, 7 strikeouts, came back, got the final 3 outs on Sunday night to clinch. He was the other guy who made the all-tournament team. So that's just a quick little brief overview of West Virginia. I'm going to tell you, y'all, it's not that I think West Virginia is a bad team. I think West Virginia is clearly good. They've gotten this far. Like, I think they are good. Excuse me. But that's all I've ever thought of West Virginia. I think they're good. I don't think they're great. That's kind of as plainly as I can put it. That doesn't mean that they can't come in here and beat LSU. Little Rock just came in here and took a game off of LSU. It's baseball. But just kind of following them from afar all season and then really digging into it when they popped up in the opposite regional from LSU, keeping a close eye on that, watching them play a part of every single game that they played, then going back and watching more of it, I'm relatively unmoved. And I know that sounds disrespectful, and I don't mean it that way because, as I said, they're good and they can beat LSU. But there's a reason, y'all, that LSU is the overwhelming favorite in this series. There's a reason that West Virginia has the second worst odds to win the College World Series because their path to get there is so difficult. And there's a reason it's so difficult. We'll see. It'll play out. Again, I have more to say on West Virginia, and I'll explain more about why I think LSU is such a bad matchup for them as we go throughout this week. And we'll look at it from every angle. That's just kind of my first little overview on them and how they got to this point in the season. And again, it's a record-setting season for them. 44 wins is a program record. For West Virginia, that's awesome. This is the second straight Super Regional for them. You've got plenty of guys who were on that team a year ago who have this experience. But LSU's got some of those guys too. So it'll certainly be a really, really interesting matchup between the Tigers and the Mountaineers. We'll continue to count you down and get you covered top to bottom as the Super Regional approaches. Finally, LSU pitcher Chandler Dorsey, he entered the transfer portal on Wednesday. Just one season at LSU. Remember, he transferred in from USF. He was the closer for the Bulls for 2 years. And man, he couldn't really carve out a role at LSU. It was tough. He only made 5 appearances on the season, all of them in relief. And man, not all of them in non-conference, and most of them in the midweek. He pitched once on the weekend. That was against North Alabama. They were not able to get Chandler Dorsey on the mound until March the 4th. It just didn't materialize. That's a guy who, was brought in to, potentially help you at the back end of your bullpen, maybe give you a spot start here or there in the midweek, something along those lines. And it just never came through. A 5.4 ERA, and now he'll be off to his next destination, and we wish him well, man. We definitely wish him well. He's the 5th LSU Tiger, for what it's worth, to enter the portal this cycle. Blaze Priester, Dylan Thompson, David Hogg II, and Ryan Costello. None of the 5 are what you would call surprising. It's all guys that didn't get a lot of playing time, and they want to go make the most of what they have left in their college career. When you talk LSU in the transfer portal, it's always going to be a lot of turnover there, because you're going to have talented guys leave, because it's very intense competition to try to get on the field at LSU. And you're going to have a lot of guys come in as well, because again, it's very intense competition to get on the field at LSU. And it just didn't work out for Chandler Dorsey. And that's a shame. It's a bummer, but we wish him well as he goes forward, man. So nothing but the best for him, and hopefully great success at his next destination. All right. That's going to wrap it up. Y'all smash the like button, please. Share, get subscribed, podcast, and YouTube. Follow on social media, and be here next time for more on Musso at the Box.